example. Here's an example. If a man cheats, he fucked up. If a woman cheats, the man fucked up.
Wait, where do you
the woman cheated.
Hold on.
He wasn't meeting my
Where
need,
do you
blah,
get
blah,
that
blah, blah.
from?
This is like a common thing.
Because that's not what I see.
Women will constantly argue that when women cheat, the man wasn't meeting some sort of expectation. But when the man cheats, he's a dog, he's a piece of shit.
I've seen something.
I think the abortion
totally
one
different.
is the best one, where if a man doesn't want you to keep the baby, he's an asshole. He has no right to make that decision. And if a woman wants to keep it, it's her body. Go her.
But
that's a good point.
None of you are giving examples of where, except you gave Taylor Swift, which I'm not sure I totally agree with that.
Oh, every pop star, every singer,
all
every
you guys
actress.
are saying is they're saying this, they're saying that. The culture is saying this.
Okay, how about the narrative of abortions where
the narrative? What is the narrative? I mean, you guys.
I'm about to explain it to you. Okay. So.
Oh shit.
Basically, the narrative with abortion on the left side. You do need a cat noise. The narrative with abortion on the left side is that if you are a woman, it is 100% your decision whether or not that baby lives. And if you want it to live, fine. But if you don't, it doesn't matter the man you're with. It doesn't matter what he thinks.
No uterus, no opinion.
If you give him an opinion, then you're brainwashed. And the child is not a child. Like, it's not a fetus. It's not living. You can decide what it doesn't. Science doesn't matter. Like, we all of a sudden want to get really scientific when we talk about abortion because we're like, oh, it's not. It's like a fetus. It's not the same thing. But then, I mean, there are other left arguments that science doesn't even matter. But that is the narrative. And so if
okay, but you're still saying what the narrative is, not who specifically is pushing these narratives.
Let me hop on the abortion thing here a little bit. Okay, let me ask you a question, right? Are you pro-choice?
I am.
Okay.
Shocker.
So what happens, let's say, you go to UCSB, people hooking up, people aren't always using protection. Let's say a guy knocks up his 20-year-old girlfriend and she wants to keep it. What do you say to the man who says, I'm not financially ready to be a father. I am not prepared to be a parent. What do you say to him?
Me personally,
what would you say to
I
him?
would say I agree with you. You should encourage her to get rid of it.
Oh, see.
Okay, well, hold on. But let's say she's steadfast, good word, steadfast, and she wants to keep. She's not going to get the abortion. She wants to keep it. What do you tell to the man? What do you say to the man?
I mean, I know this is the answer you're looking for. I would say, well, you can't force her.
Well, but
because I mean, you can't really force. You can't violate someone else's bodily autonomy.
Wouldn't you say something along the lines of,
step up to the
you shoulda kept your legs closed. You shouldn't have had sex with her if you didn't want to do that. Correct?
You should have thought about it before you came in her raw.
You might be asking the wrong person because I would not say that, but I'm sure that there are people who would say that.
Here's because I mean,
I do believe
maybe
there are people who would say that.
Okay, so then would you be in favor of it's called legal paternal surrender? So that's basically
like if you say I think I actually would be in
so
favor
like
of
let's
that.
say the woman wants to keep it, the man doesn't. Would you be totally fine with the man? He could make some sort of opt-in decision where he's like, okay, I don't want to be financially responsible for the child. I don't want custody, and he could opt out.
If it's like legal and informed and like both sides know what they're agreeing to. I would.
No, the other side, the woman doesn't have to agree to that.
Would you?
In any here's my position.
No, I mean like.
Hold on, let me explain it. In any state where a woman has a right to get an abortion, I think a man ought to have a corresponding right to what I like to call, some people call it a paper abortion, what I prefer to call a legal paternal surrender. So the man could say, well, if you have a right to an abortion, but you're opting to keep the child, I have a corresponding right to say, well, I don't want to be custodially responsible. I don't want to be financially responsible for the child.
I would agree with that.
You'd be in favor of that.
What I mean is the woman should know if he is doing that. Like
right, but what I'm saying...
he shouldn't be able to hide it. Like, you know what I mean?
Okay, so like make a disclosure.
$200.
Okay. That's reasonable.
Libs with their backwards/guerrilla logic can't agree on when life starts. Heartbeat, cognition, birth, etc. Shouldn't the logical answer be to default back to conception to eliminate potential murder?
We'll come back to that in just a second. Actually, I disagree with you because a woman could opt to get an abortion without having to make any disclosures to the man. Ergo, I think a man in a state where this, and frankly, this will never pass anywhere, even in super progressive liberal states where this would be at least some form of equality on the reproductive rights thing, at least for men. But frankly, liberals and progressives don't give a fuck about men, and frankly, neither do conservatives. At least they give it's a very liberals and progressives don't give a fuck about men if they're not even just anti-men. Conservatives, it's like token. It's a very token support for men. But this will never happen, so it's just kind of a fool's errand. But
Lol Paladins
I don't think there should be a disclosure on the man's part.
Brixon, such a bad take. Even worse for society, encouraging men to blow loads in 304s, and then it makes even more single mothers and taxpayers pay.
In any state where abortion is legal, it occurs to me that if we're like living in this egalitarian, equal, which we don't, but well, in terms of like we have equality for women, not really for men though, especially on the reproductive front. There is no men have absolutely zero reproductive rights, while
All
women
the
have.
obligation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
So
then
you're saying just what's good for the goose should be good for the gander. Like if you have the right to unilateral abortion, you have the right to unilateral divorce, then men should have the same.
Dave Chappelle put it very eloquently. If you have the right to murder a child, I at least ought to have the right to abandon it.
Yeah, and actually, I think that logic would promote. I mean, like if that were a thing, it would promote. It would force people to have to take responsibility for sex, for what they're engaging in. It would force them to have conversations because all of a sudden there's a lot more at stake. Whereas right now there's just not a lot at stake.
Wait,
so it's interesting.
I have a question for you. Why do you think men should have to, in this hypothetical scenario where there's paper abortion, why should a man have to disclose to a woman that he's opting out?
I think that.
So she can reconsider the abortion?
Yeah, I would say to reconsider, because if, you think you're going to have two incomes to support a child, you're going to be getting child support, whatever, and then after the child is born, you don't receive that, I think that could really negatively impact the child's life. So I think a woman should know at least have a good idea about what is going to happen post-birth with her child.
I mean, what if it was, even in the scenario where it was like a casual encounter where she would have no reasonable expectation that this man intended, like, consent to sex is not consent to fatherhood.
I think...
Or
is
if
it?
it is,
Or is it?
if it is, then consent to sex should also be consent to motherhood on the woman's side. Like we have to be consistent.
Right, yeah.
That's the thing. I don't think your logic is very consistent, but I think that...
Wait,
I think he is consistent.
Hold on. From the
Well,
male...
are you pro-choice?
Hold on. From the male perspective,
Okay.
if a male consents to sex, is that him consenting to fatherhood?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No.
Well, that's how it is actually currently.
Well, I know, and I'm saying I agree that if a woman is going to go forth with a pregnancy that a man does not want to provide for, I mean, that's her choice to have the child. I agree that he should have the choice to not be supportive. I just think that I'm thinking about the child here after it's born. I think that you should know what you're getting into. And that's part of the reason I'm pro-choice, is because I don't think that children being born in certain situations are having very good lives.
So you think it's better for them to be dead?
Yes, I genuinely do.
So we should just kill all poor people because they're not having a good time.
They're already
right now.
alive. They're already alive.
Poor
But
people
so
are
is
the
a
only
baby.
ones having babies, by the way, right now.
And
The only so you'd be fine with just the human race dying out.
I mean, I'm gonna die
Yes,
someday.
because
We're all
then-
dying someday.
the problem
Only
is
thing,
that just
yes,
goes
every
down
time.
such
We're
an
like
evil
8 for 8 now
evil
when I've
rabbit
asked
hole.
this question
Well, but
to a feminist,
would I
and
be
they're
like-
like, "Oh,
But
people
she's
have
not
to die
under.
now."
She's not under any propaganda or brainwashing.
No,
not
no.
the death cult that's pushing.
She hasn't even heard
the
of
end
it.
of the human
she
race.
hasn't even heard of it.
I would not be fine with it ending in my lifetime because I personally try to avoid suffering.
But that's pretty selfish, though. Cause yeah.
I think everyone alive is pretty selfish. I
Well,
think most people try
I
to
don't
avoid
know.
suffering and
Try
pain.
to-
Wait, last question on this, and then we'll move to a different topic. Do you think that men should pay child support before the child is even born?
Like pregnancy support.
I think they should pay before they even have sex with the woman.
So prostitution.
It's a down payment.
Yeah, I actually do. I think if it's a I think like in your situation where they can opt out, if they're like, I don't consent to being a father, no thank you, then no. But if they're going to be paying child support, then yeah, I think they should also support through the pregnancy.
None of these
Costs a lot of
questions.
money.
we used to have a
Wait.
thing called marriage.
Thank you.
I'm pro-marriage. I don't believe children should be born out of wedlock.
Wait, so one question
She says
though.
kill him.
One-
Just
Wait,
kill him. That's
Yeah.
So
fine.
how early on Like, could it, for example, if the woman finds out, like, when do women typically find out? 4 or 5 weeks?
Yeah, I think it's like to 6 weeks. Yeah.
So should it be retroactive? Let's say, like, should the retroactive child support, pre-birth child support, be retroactive up until conception?
No, once you know.
Oh, once you know. Okay, so like at 4 weeks,
I think that would be a difficult legal thing to work out.
The man should start paying?
Not paying all of it.
Should start paying child support.
Yeah.
At what point in the pregnancy? Like 4 weeks in? If she finds out, let's say she finds out at 4 weeks in. Should the man be paying child support?
Lol Paladins donated $200. You just got to the crux of the matter. Women have been brainwashed to believe that humans that reproduce are bad and it's better if humans ceased to exist.
Yep.
Literal death count.
Yep.
Lol
It's called
Paladins, thank you.
Malthusianism.
Wait,
I don't think that.
So
and
just
I
back to
also
my
don't
thing.
believe in overpopulation.
Wait, so just back to my thing. So the woman finds out 4 weeks in, she's pregnant. So is that at the point the man should pay child support?
Well, the point, I think, would be whatever, going forward, okay, I'm pregnant. Whatever prenatal care you need, you should. I think it should just be whatever point the pregnancy is known.
But, okay, but
wait.
I don't think it should be retroactive.
Hold on. So you are, though, in favor that the man should pay child support prior to birth?
I'm not against it. I'm not like campaigning for this.
Starting at 4 weeks or so?
Starting whenever, like if you don't
Okay, let's say
find
it's 4 weeks.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So you are acknowledging that it is a child at 4 weeks.
Yeah, I went into the whole. You can watch my one-on-one debate with Andrew Wilson. Where
Okay, just wanted to.
just kidding.
So can I just say something?
Yeah,
This is exactly where we have an issue, okay? Because she's saying he should, and he should be forced to, and he should be made to, and it's like, who's doing that? Okay, the government, right? So what we have done is we have created this nanny state where instead of people taking responsibility and accountability for their lives, because this is what women used to do. They used to screen men and say, are you going to take care of me and your children? And if you're not, I'm not going to have sex with you. And if I make the wrong decision, the responsibility of that decision falls upon my shoulders.
Right.
We have now abdicated that responsibility and said, I don't want to be responsible for anything. Somebody should take care of this. Let's use the power of the state to enforce my will, because I didn't have the self-control, wherewithal, or insight to make that decision in the right time. And this is why we are in a problem.
And so
drop.
do you think that
Thank you.
That was good, man.
That's actually really interesting. I haven't thought of that. So if, for example, if we were to get rid of child support, do you think women would be a bit more responsible when it comes to who they have sex with?
Well, first of all, two things. If you got rid of child support and welfare, okay,
well,
because there's a nice
say,
net there, okay? All of a sudden, those legs would be closing up.
So are you guys
and
pro or
this is-
anti-natalist? I mean, if you would like to prevent these births, you want to take away safety nets for women who do get pregnant. It sounds like you're part of the death cult.
Nope. I did not say prevent the births. I said, first of all, something totally different will shift in the way that men behave. You will still have a proportion of men who are going to be trying to sleep with women, and they're going to be doing it, but it's not going to be the majority of men. Most men are going to be looking to get married because they want to have sex, which is the whole point, is to reproduce. They will
You think people should be getting married just because they want to have sex?
It's a
Yeah.
primary motivator.
What do you think marriage is about?
That's one of the
I
big
think it's
reasons
about
I'm married.
love and
No.
partnership.
Sure,
I
well,
mean-
that's all BS. No, no, it is. Of
That's
course
pretty
it is.
sad.
Of course it is. But here's the thing: we're so disconnected. Children are the blossom of the love that you have.
Right.
It's like a
I
flower
agree.
blooming out of something beautiful. That's all gone. All of
Right.
that is washed away because it's not even your responsibility. It's the state's responsibility, and somebody should do it instead of you looking at your own accountability. If you want to be treated as an equal adult, as a man, then you must behave exactly the same way. You must share the same responsibilities, the same accountability, and not leave it to be somebody else's problem to clean up the mess that you didn't have the thought process to go through. And I'm not saying you can't get help. People need help all the time. We all make mistakes. It's not meant to beat you down because you've made a mistake. But we are now living in a society that encourages this and encourages absolutely no accountability on behalf of women and pretty soon on behalf of men.
It's actually provably true what she's saying, because in my book I point out that if you look from 1960 to now and you plot out on a graph out of wedlock births and the growth of the welfare state on a map or like on a graph, they go up exactly in tandem like this, like perfect lockstep with each other. So we basically just replaced marriage and paternity, fathers, with the state and welfare.
And you could see this the
wait,
most.
I'm
It's on
sorry.
that same graph, and
Can
it's
you
going
can
down.
you repeat that? The welfare state is rising with the birth rates?
With out of wedlock births.
With out of wedlock births.
Which,
okay.
and you
So
can see, you
I have
can
a
see
couple-
this in
I have
the
a couple
black
comments
community.
about
It's
this.
clear.
Okay. I have a couple comments about that.
Sure.
First of all, I know I don't know about your debates so much, but I know Andrew's debates, he relies a lot on like sociological studies are unreproducible. So, I mean, how can you say that if there's such a replication crisis,
that's
how
not
can you
a
say
sociological study because you just look at the actual dollars
but how
of
did they
welfare
collect
money
that?
spent.
How did they collect that data? Could that be reproduced? Could the data
What do you
collection?
mean?
How they collected the data of like however they're measuring
Out of wedlock
welfare
births?
and how are they measuring out of wedlock births? It's probably self-reported.
So I'll explain. Welfare you measure by literal federal welfare dollars spent. Okay, so that's just math,
Which they
Well,
track.
okay.
And
Yes.
then
how are they accounting for confounding variables when they're comparing the two?
I'm not saying that they're comparing the two. I'm saying I compared the two.
How are
I
you
plotted
accounting
them.
for
So
confounding variables?
you don't necessarily need to account
You
for
do.
all. No, well, shut up and I'll explain. So if you look at out of wedlock births, that's something that when you go to have the baby, right? And if you don't put married to the dad on the birth certificate, it's an out of wedlock birth, or you're not, taking the same last name like they did back in the day. I'm just saying, I'm not saying it's causative. I'm saying it's exactly correlative. And there are times
and happiness
where
would be antidepressants.
There
use
are
of
times
antidepressants.
where even if it's just a correlation, if they are in exact lockstep with each other, if it was like this, that might be one thing. But when they go like this together, exactly the same, it's highly indicative of the fact that we are
making a causal claim.
Okay, but I bet if that
it's
stuff was
highly
about
indicative of
climate
the fact
control,
we're
you'd be all over
incentivizing
it.
out of wedlock births by rewarding people with financial support from the state rather than from the father.
You are making a causal claim. That
I'm
you
also
can't
using
really
logic. I'm using logic
But I mean,
and
like-
That
reason.
thing.
Sorry.
That thing. Logic. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh
go
my
ahead.
That
God.
logic thing where you can see that obviously
But
as soon as we start incentivizing
do you believe
the
in global
state
warming?
to pay for out of wedlock births, we
Wait,
get
what?
more of them.
Whoa.
No, because I'm going to say this. She's going to say that she believes those statistics and those correlations, but these correlations are not. And that this is the
I didn't
annoying.
say that.
Okay, so do you believe in global warming?
Show me the
She
show me
works
the
for
data.
Shell.
Yeah, I actually, my father
Okay,
is
so you
an
don't believe-
ExxonMobil executive.
Okay, well now we're going to attack you because you don't believe it.
That's fine.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Wait,
I'm used to
I
it.
do have to move things on.